put my needs before his own. Because of me, sometimes Daddy got stuck. Because of me, sometimes he didn't speak the truth. Until one day, Daddy discovered that he didn't have to do it alone. I am standing in front of you today because of Daddy's hard work and because he got a Pro-EduSave policy from Prudential Uganda.
Pro-EduSave, it's all about love. Every sacrifice you make for your children, remember, you don't have to do it alone. Prudential, let's face life to...
You know, people have been saying Mhozi.
Oba wasoma oba tewasoma, oba oli mugagga oba toli mugagga, oba olina omunene mu gavumenti gw'omanyi oba tolina, ffenna nga twenkanankana, ye Uganda gye twagala okubeera nabyo.
Ground rent, trading license, restaurant license, bar license, swimming pool license, operations license, liquor license, entertainment license, may NSSF, and so on and so forth. The second complaint of the traders has been the management, the compliance measures.
Sagala na kumanya nkoya bu 7 bana abantu sobola kubaweerera emisolo miyitirivu osasula URA n'osasula trading license n'osasula land road emisolo nga gisusse katuva mu 7 malaga vaako ogende
omusoga akoba nti kana akulya kaida na idembe guno omusolo gwidye gwida kutulya tunatwena ezira gwe tujja kulekayo naffe tugenda kugalawo amaduuka kubanga ffe tukulemberwa bannaffe ab'e Kampala bakasiita
ate naffe obwobuuma obw'okunyiga obunyizi tetubusobola kubanga bizinensi bwaffe butono tutunda obudomola bwa butto tutunda akasawo kamu akasukaali kati lwaki banyingirira n'omusolo okufaanana bwe gutyo ogw'omuntu asaanira okubeera mu kampuni.
Let's not play to the gallery. I am seeing a lot of things. If there is an assassination plan, go and report to police.
Honorable Speaker, in 2021, videos made round
confiscate all of those people who drive civilian vehicles having military jackets, military uniforms in their cars when they are not supposed to have them.
Those operating without wearing reflective jackets. In the regulation of the motorcycles, that is 2016, every person riding a motorcycle is supposed to wear a reflective jacket on the road at all times.
That have no chairpersons and vice chairperson will be sitting to conduct business.
You can choose from the committee who will lead.
Under which rule? Just guide us. Let's have the rules of procedure, and the whip read for us the rules of procedure.
Honorable.
Honorable colleagues, first of all, when you look at Rule 2 or 3, Sub-Rule 5, it states, a meeting of the committee shall be presided over by the chairperson of the committee, and in his or her absence, by the deputy chairperson, or in the absence of both of them, by a member of the committee elected by the members present and voting. Clarification.
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, the government chief whip has written to me that in 2 weeks' time, he will fill those places. And I am also happy that in those 2 weeks' time, in that time, you will still be bonding with your voters. You'll still be bonding with your voters. I am sending you for bonding. I want you to come back. But at the same time, honorable members, honorable members, I have had Honorable Elijah saying, but Bank of Uganda is operating without a Bududa.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In accordance with Rule 187 and Rule 188 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, I hereby designate the opposition members to the sectoral committees as follows. Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The Honorable Nabukela Hanifa of Mukono District, the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Utambala, the Honorable Nabagabe Flavia, Kasanda District, the Honorable Nabukenya Brenda Luero, the Honorable Nanda Nathan Mafabi, Udadiri West, the Honorable Semju Ibrahim Inganda, Kira Municipality, the Honorable Onguzuli Dennis Maracha, the Honorable Ekanya Joffrey of Tororo North, the Honorable Sewamala Richard Wukoto Central, and the Honorable Ochan Patrick of Apache Municipality. Madam Speaker, on the Committee on Health, I hereby designate the following members. The Honorable Nandajire Christine N. of Bukomasimbi North, the Honorable Dr. Kakabo Twara Mze of Bukoto South, the Honorable Dr. Kimara Nicholas.
Honorable Aled, we're in the house. Is that Aled talking to Okirod? Brandon, publicity. You are bringing publicity in the house.
Not properly addressed. Not properly addressed.
Publicity, you first take it, go and discuss from out. And you also dress very well, eh? Yes.
The Honorable, I will resume from where I ended. That the Honorable Dr. Kamara Nicholas P. of Kabale Municipality, the Honorable Dr. Batua Timothy, Jinja Southwest, the Honorable Dr. Vaiga Michael Lurume of Buikwe South, and the Honorable Auma Kenny of Kwania District. On the Committee on Foreign Affairs, I designate the following, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Nkunyinji Muada of Chad on the East, the Honorable Sewanyana Alan of Makindye West, the Honorable Serubura Stephen of Lugazi Municipality, and the Honorable Akaye Bob of Kwania North. I beg to designate. On Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, I designate the following members, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Kaya Christine Nachimwero of Chiboga District, the Honorable Kanyike Ronald Evans of Bukoto East, the Honorable Samba Patrick Oshabe of Kasanda North, the Honorable Mugabe Susan of Buvuma District, the Honorable Tebandeke Charles of Bale County, the Honorable Narule Aisha Kabanda of Butambala District, and the Honorable Akena James Michael Jimmy of Rila East City Division. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, Committee on Presidential Affairs, I designate the following members. The Honorable Valimwezo Ronald of Nakawa East, the Honorable Zake Francis Tutevi of Mitiana Municipality, the Honorable Segrinya Muhammad of Kawembe South, the Honorable Kawalia Abubakar of Rubaga North, the Honorable Sasaga Isaiah Johnny of Budadiri East, the Honorable Onekalit Dennis Amere of Kitugum Municipality, and the Honorable Okot Peter of Tochi County. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs. The following are the members for designation. The Honorable Nyeko Derek of Makindye East, the Honorable Kiwanuka Abdallah of Mukono County North, the Honorable Vachireke Betty Namboze of Mukono Municipality, the Honorable Namanya Naboth of Rubabo County, the Honorable Okot Pititek Moses Jr. of Choga County, and the Honorable Gilbert Olanya of Klaka South. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, Committee on Fiscal Infrastructure. I designate the following members. The Honorable Sars Godfrey of Gomba East, the Honorable Sekabira Dennis of Katikamu North, the Honorable Katavas Francis of Kalungu East, Honorable Kabusu Moses of Chamuswa, the Honorable Isibambi Yusuf of Maokota South, the Honorable Mwechuche Francis of Weju County, the Honorable Utamaguzi Semakula of Nakaseke South, the Honorable Kayondo Fred of Mukono South, and the Honorable Okello Nelson of Maruzi North. I beg to designate, Madam Speaker. Committee on Public Service and Government and Local Government. I designate the following members. The Honorable Naluima Betty Ethel of Wakiso District, the Honorable Luanga Jimmy of Injero Municipality, Honorable Namboze Teddy of Mpiji District, the Honorable Nakabuye Juliet Kakande of Masaka District, the Honorable Katushabe Atkinis Godfrey of Konzo West, and the Honorable Emigu Julius Peter of Oshero County. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, Committee on Education and Sports. I designate the following members. The Honorable Kayemba Geoffrey Solo of Komasimbi South, the Honorable Seung Gonzaga Joseph of Kalungu West, the Honorable Kakembo Michael of Entebbe Municipality, the Honorable Ongiyothio Emmanuel of Jonam, and the Honorable Akuti Sara of Dokoro District. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture. I designate the following members. The Honorable Dr. Abed Bwanika of Kimanya Kabonero, the Honorable Matov Charles of Busiro South, the Honorable Nanyondo Veronica of Komansimbi District, the Honorable Plot Stella Isodo of Ngora District, the Honorable Kabugo Florence of Kasese District, the Honorable Aol Bet Oshan of Guru City, the Honorable Nyakato Asnas of Hoima City, the Honorable Lukwago John Paul of Chotara County, the Honorable Akora Maxwell of Maruth South, and the Honorable Court Santa of Aru North. I beg to designate. Madam Speaker, Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development. I designate the following members. The Honorable Kabuye Frank of Kasanda North, South. The Honorable Chiaga Hirale of Mawokota North. The Honorable Mayanja Alan of Nakaseke Central. The Honorable Businje Joab of Masindi Municipality. The Honorable Muhindo Harold of Bukonzo East, and the Honorable Nantongo Fortunate of Chotera District. I beg to designate, Madam Speaker. Committee on East African Community Affairs. I designate the following members. The Honorable Mukasa Alosias Taluton of Rubaga South, the Honorable Nsubu Kapol of Busiro North, the Honorable Ikudo Tom Julius of Kweri, and the Honorable Kweri, and the Honorable Akelo Lucy of Amuro District. I beg to designate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry. I designate the following members. The Honorable Chebaputi Kamanjeri of Jinja City, the Honorable Simbwa Fred of Nachivuma, the Honorable Namuga Goreti of Maogola South, the Honorable Lutaye Joffre of Kakuto County, the Honorable Kaima Musoke of Nansana Municipality, Honorable Charles David K. Karwanga, Busuju County, the Honorable Churumira Hassan, Katikamu South, the Honorable Alobo Joan Achom, Soroti City, the Honorable Isavire David Aga of Jinja North, the Honorable Okelo Joffre of Noya East, and the Honorable Eunice Otuko Apio of Oyam North. I beg to designate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. I designate the following members. The Honorable Malende Shamim of Kampala, the Honorable Nambeshi John Baptist of Manjia County, Honorable Rubega Medat Segona of Busiro East, the Honorable Sechitoreko Robert of Bamnanika County, the Honorable Matthias Impuga of Nyendo Mukungwe, the Honorable Lumu Richard Kizito of Mitiana South, the Honorable Adeke Anna Ebachu of Soroti District, the Honorable Alum Sandra of Oyam District, the Honorable Odur Jonathan of Erute South, and the Honorable Asuman Vasalirwa of Bujiri Municipality. I beg to designate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Committee on Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance. I designate the following members. The Honorable Nachimuli Helen of Kalangala District, the Honorable Wagala Joyce N. Ntwatwa of Mitiana District, the Honorable Kazibe Bashir Mbazira of Kawembe South, the Honorable Seru Kenya David of Makindye Savagamo, and the Honorable Okini Pipi Ojara of Chua West. I beg to designate Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Council, why are you disorganizing mine?
No, it's okay. So.
Sit. Council, you want
Madam
to give
Speaker,
everybody...
I had made an omission and I was reminding me of our member, the Honorable Anthony Akol. Is supposed to be, it was just an omission on the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development. I beg to designate Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, finally, in keeping with the directives of the official party opposition, I hereby make a redesignation of chairperson and deputy chairperson of the Committee on Government Assurances and Implementation. And this is in keeping with the rule 196 of our rules of procedure, Madam Speaker, that I hereby, therefore, in keeping with that rule, withdraw the name of the Honorable Dr. Abed Wanika and the Honorable Wagala Joyce as chairperson and deputy chairperson of Government Assurances and Implementation, respectively, and redesignate the Honorable Seungu Konzaga Joseph as chairperson and the Honorable
There's a procedural matter.
Betty Etho as deputy chairperson of the committee, respectively. I beg to redesignate Madam Speaker.
Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, wouldn't it be procedure right for us to conclude with the sessional committee before we go into the standing committees? I think it's procedure right for us to start with the sessional committees because that's what we are dealing with. We are not dealing with the standing committees as of now. Yeah.
Honorable member. We'll put different questions. One for the sectoral committee and one for the standing. So what you do, let's first put a question for the sectoral committee. You first withdraw the other, and then it is your right to redesignate. You redesignate.
Because the latitude that this rule 196 gives me,
what I am saying,
that can be done anytime.
What I am saying,
yes.
Let's first pass the sectoral committee. Honorable.
Most obliged, Madam Speaker.
Let's put a question on sectoral committee. Then you come and put the one of the other one.
Most
then
obliged.
we also put a question on it.
Most obliged,
it is simple as that. Yes. Independent. It is not that we have rejected. We are going to have it. Honorable Nsanja.
So, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Once again, Honorable.
Speak to the microphone.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Once again, my name is Nsanja Patrick Kayongo, MP in Tenjeru South in Kayunga District. I am an independent member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, before I proceed, I would want to take the honor to thank you so much for offering me the opportunity to designate independent members of the 11th Parliament to the various sector committees on your behalf, but also on behalf of the office of the Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am grateful. Madam Speaker, I now take the honor to designate the following members, and I will start with the agriculture, animal husbandry, and fisheries. I designate the following members: Honorable Obong Vincent Shedrick, Lira West Division; the Honorable Namtawe Joan, District Woman Representative Masaka; the Honorable Mukasa Julius Opondo, Bujumba County; the Honorable Auma Linda Agnes, District Woman Representative Leader; the Honorable Tusime Julius, Rwampara County East; the Honorable Akora Nancy, District Woman Representative Lamu. The Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs, I beg to designate the following members: the Honorable Lamwaka Margaret, Choa East County; the Honorable Komol Emmanuel, Dodoth East County; the Honorable Ainaitre Robin, Isingiro West County; and the Honorable Museven William. The Honorable Museven William, Buekula South County. I now go to the Committee of East African Community Affairs. I designate the following members, and therefore the Honorable Nakato Mary Annette Buyende, Woman MP; the Honorable Were Godfrey Odero, Samia Bugwe County South; the Honorable Wariomu Muwanika Moses, Kagoma County; and the Honorable Nyangwesho Dennis. I beg to designate. Education and Sports Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Macho Geoffrey, Busia Municipality; the Honorable Mahoha Margaret, District Woman Representative Namayingo; the Honorable Subi Chinyamatama Juliet K, District Woman Representative Rakai; the Honorable Nakayenze Koni Galiwango, City Woman Representative Mbale; the Honorable Akunguziwe Aled Ronald, Bururi County; the Honorable Onen Charles, Loro Peace Division; the Honorable Ogon Silas, Kumi Municipality; and the Honorable Tracy J. Nathan Itungo, Kashari South County. I beg to designate. The next committee is Finance, Planning, and Economic Development. I designate the following members: the Honorable Omar Paul, Otuke County; the Honorable Mpindi Bumali, PWD Representative; the Honorable Asiro Pasca Menya, District Woman.
Honorable Elijah.
The Honorable
I will tell the member not to designate you.
The Honorable Ndio Mujeni Roland, Ruchiga County; and the Honorable Masaba Karim, Industrial Division, Mbale City. I beg to designate. Foreign Affairs Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Ochen Peter, Kore South County; the Honorable Komakech Christopher, Aru County; the Honorable Msherere Shatis Naebare Kutesa, Maogola North County; and the Honorable Ahmed Agnes, District Woman Representative, Butevo. I now go to the Committee of Gender, Labor, and Social Development. I beg to designate the following members: the Honorable Abeja Susan Jole, District Woman Representative, Otuke; the Honorable Rabushaija Margaret Namubiru, Workers Representative; the Honorable Kayanga Baroda, Kamuli Municipality; and the Honorable Nandutu Agnes, District Woman Representative, Bududa. I beg to designate. Health Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Opio Samuel Achu, Achuti, Kore North County; the Honorable
Akol is saying he's already designated. We designate as independents with the leadership. He's a vice chairperson of health. Linda is a chairperson of yes.
the Honorable Zawede Victorious, District Woman Representative Nakasongola; the Honorable Mahuye Mariam, District Representative
And,
Mbale.
and your best friend Ojara is the chair of what?
Public Service. The Honorable Ida Nantava, District Woman Representative, Kayunga District, I beg to designate. Information, Communication, Technology, and National Guidance Committee. I designate the following members: the Honorable Chiza Kenneth Nyondoha, Bujenje County, the Honorable Musa Noah, Koboko North County, and the Honorable Nsereko Muhammad, Kampala Central. I beg to designate. Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Niwagaba Wilfred, Ndora County East, the Honorable Katuntu Abudu, Bugweri County, the Honorable Zijan David Livingston, Butembe County, the Honorable Nsanja Patrick Kayongo, Ntenjeru County South. I beg to designate. Environment and Natural Resources Committee, I designate the following members: Honorable Adidwa Abudu, Bukoli County South, the Honorable Musira John, Buburo East County, the Honorable Kamuntu Moses, Rubanda County, the Honorable Katenya Isaac, Bulambuli County, the Honorable Baharuere Twekwase Sylvia, District Woman Representative Kamwenge, the Honorable Musana Eric, Buyaga East County, and the Honorable Omoding Emmanuel, Serere County. I beg to designate. Physical Infrastructure Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Ebual Jonathan, Soroti West Division, the Honorable Okupa Elijah, Kasiro County, the Honorable Rwe Muliche, Ibanda, Ntoroko County, the Honorable Mugema Panado, Iganga Municipality, Mugema Peter, Iganga Municipality, the Honorable Acrobat Chiza Moses, Buhendero County, the Honorable Atugonza Alan, Bulisa County. I beg to designate. Presidential Affairs Committee, I designate the following members: the Honorable Asera Stephen, Buhanguzi East County, the Honorable Kangwaje Stephen, Rwaka Numa, Bukanga County, the Honorable Chamutawa Evelyn, District Woman Representative Bukwo, and the Honorable Kabasharirwa Naume, Rushenyi County. I beg to designate. The Committee of Public Service and Local Government, I designate the following members: the Honorable Ojara Martin Mapenduzi, who is already designated as the chairperson on the same committee. The Honorable Isingoma Patrick Mwesigwa, Hoima East Division, the Honorable Mboizi Arthur Wako, Budoda County, and the Honorable Amero Susan, District Woman Representative, Amuria.
Mboizi is not from Bududa, from Budaka.
Sorry, Budaka. Yes, right. I beg your pardon, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Mboizi Arthur Wako, Budaka County. I now go to the last committee, which is Trade, Tourism, Trade, and Industry. I designate the following members: the Honorable Kuruo Joseph Andrew, Toroma County, the Honorable Atkwasa Rita, City Woman Representative, Mbarara, the Honorable Mushemeza Elijah Dickens, Shema County, and the Honorable Biakatonda Abudu, Workers Representative. Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the approval of the designated members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sanja Patrick. Honorable members in the public gallery, this morning we have students and teachers from Uganda Matters High School, Lubaga, from Lubaga Division. Please just stand up and we see you. Yeah. You're most welcome. They are represented by Honorable Gold Mukasalocious and Honorable Shamim Malende. You're most welcome. And thank you so much for coming. Join me in welcoming the students. Thank you so much. They are very, very smart. Please have a seat. Yes, UPDF.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, pursuant to rules 1510C, 187 and 188 of our rules of procedure, I beg to designate the following members of Uganda People's Defense Forces to the following respective sectoral committees. Honorable Lieutenant General Peter Elwelu, Defense and Internal Affairs. Honorable Lieutenant General James Mujira, Foreign Affairs. Honorable Lieutenant General Sam Kavuma, Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries. Honorable Major General Henry Masiko, Presidential Affairs. Honorable Brigadier General Charity Bainababo, East African Community Affairs. Honorable Colonel Dr. Nekesa, Committee of Health. And finally, Honorable Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Jennifer Alanyo, to the Committee of Education and Sports. I beg to submit, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The designations have been done for sectoral committees. I now put a question that the sectoral committees of the 4th session of the 11th Parliament be constituted as proposed by the whips. Those in favor say on the contrary, nay. The ayes have it. We've constituted the sectoral committees, and based on Rule 196, redesignation of chairpersons, as per the request from the COW.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right away, it is a redesignation of a chairperson and a deputy chairperson on the Committee on Government Assurances and Implementation. Right Honorable Speaker, Rule 196 of our rules of procedure states that a chairperson or deputy chairperson of a committee may be redesignated at any time of his tenure by the relevant whip. And Madam Speaker, I'm the relevant whip. With the approval of the House. In line with the rule, therefore, I hereby withdraw the name of the Honorable Dr. Abed Wanika and the name of the Honorable Vagala Ntwatwa Joyce as chairperson and deputy chairperson of Government Assurances and Implementation, respectively. And I do redesignate the Honorable Seungu Konzaga Joseph as chairperson and the Honorable Naruima Etho Betty as deputy chairperson of the committee. I hereby redesignate them, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I'm going to put a question. If you're in favor of removing Dr. Abed a clarification.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to see a clarification from the whip that when you are a chairperson, you are also a member of that committee. Yes, while the rule provides for redesignating a member, you are withdrawing them from the leadership. But where are you deploying them in terms of membership of a sectoral committee? Are they still hanging in the air? I just want the start. And also to remind you that it is with approval of the House.
Madam Speaker, the response.
Honorable members, listen. Listen.
The response, Madam Speaker, my response is simplified and made very easy by the Rule 196.
You know, honorable member, what honorable doctor is asking. And I think that's what most of these people are asking. That when you brought Dr. Bedi to be a chair, it was approved by this House. Now, what they're asking you, that tell them why you're withdrawing them. Yes. Much as the rules are there, and they are saying you can withdraw anytime you feel like, it's just.
Madam Speaker, you know, this is one of the accountability committees that we have. And the discretionary powers to determine leadership of these committees lies solely with the official opposition party. And the rule gives party leadership the latitude to, at any time of their tenure, to redeploy them or to withdraw them and redeploy others. That is the rule. And
there is an order here.
Madam Speaker, no, I'm still responding to the clarification.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the whip is very informed with the rules, and the communication was clear from the Right Honorable Speaker. Nobody is contesting the rule, and nobody is contesting your powers. Just convince the House that was convinced to approve the two, that Abedi is incompetent or the vice is incompetent. Just give us the reason as to why you are withdrawing them, because the rule is clear.
Honorable members, let
me put you to order, because I've not completed. So I was just explaining that the rule is clear. It gives us the grounds under which to redesignate. It's also clear. So is it in order?
Was about the membership, whether the redesignation of these members and stripping them of their leadership roles affects their membership. It does not. They will remain members of that same committee, the Honorable Minister. And the rule is crystal clear about that.
Thank you very much. Yes, one. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. And thank you, Chief the Whip, for the clarification. Just wanted to add, Madam Speaker, that the rule which you correctly recited says with the approval of the House. So it would also be fair that since you want our approval, to give us the reasons so that we move together. Yes, because, yes, exactly. Because
procedure.
Just explain it to us.
Procedure.
So that you mobilize us, support your request. Yes.
You know, honorable member.
Procedure.
Honorable member.
Madam Speaker. Procedure.
Honorable members, can you all sit first?
Procedure.
Yes, Honorable Kwizera. I'm going to give you law. You'll speak last.
But let me.
Right Honorable, thank you very much.
Wait, you hear what people are saying.
Right Honorable, we operate under the law. And Article 21 of the Constitution is that we are all equal. NRM has designated where Honorable Badiomons is a member of SEC. They have not given us any reasons. As I don't know why, we should now demand reasons from the other side. We are all equal. I thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker,
Honorable
I actually have an answer for him. I have an answer for him. Don't worry. I have an answer for him.
Honorable members,
Let me respond to you.
let him answer.
Yeah, let me answer.
Let him answer.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker.
Can I have order?
And,
Can I have order?
and thank you very much, Honorable
Honorable
Speaker.
members, search.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Kwizera has correctly said, yes, I am a member of the Central Executive Committee of the NRM Party as the Vice Chairperson in charge of Western Uganda. And indeed, when the government chief presented names, he did indicate that the party is still consulting, yes, to fill some of the positions of the leaders of some committees. And I can tell you the consideration is that the Central Executive Committee of NRM took a decision that we shall promote rotation in terms of leadership. And therefore, yes, and it is important for us to explain. And therefore, we took a decision.
Honorable members.
No.
Honorable members. Honorable members, there is an order.
Are you from NRM?
No, there is an order from Honorable Zake.
Order is there, Honorable Speaker.
There is an order also from Honorable Zake.
Yes, order. And Right Honorable Speaker, is Honorable Baliomos in order to insinuate that they have given a reason, yet in some committees you have changed leadership, in some few committees, and you have not given any reason. So are you in order to insinuate that you have given a reason, yet you have not? Is it in order?
Honorable members, this is not a matter of debate. If you don't want the member to be removed, it is a question. Well, I don't know why you're talking.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I think it's important that this House appreciates multi-party democracy. And that's why the rules set it as such. Honorable Speaker, I beg to be protected by you.
Honorable members, listen to the leader of opposition.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. As I was saying, it's important that this House appreciates multi-party democracy, and that's why the rules prescribe as such. The rules say redesignation can happen at any time. The rules don't say there must be a reason. However, because the Chief Opposition Whip does that in consultation with the party, I will volunteer a reason. Honorable Speaker, you've always emphasized that committees have got to be active, that leadership of committees have got to dispense their duty. The committees that we head as the opposition, Park Central, headed by Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, have been meeting severally. Park Kosase, headed by the Honorable Segona and Honorable Alan Mayanja, have been meeting severally. Park Local Government, headed by Ladit Olanya, have been meeting severally. Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Government Assurances has not been meeting. And we think that that's a very serious committee that has got to be active. They rarely meet, and our thinking as the persons in charge of these committees,
we want these committees to be active because the Committee of Government Assurances actually plays a critical role important for this House. When government makes promises, those promises are meant to be followed up on. And so we want this committee to be quite active. That's why he wants to give information. I will not take the information.
There's a motion.
But my point is, Right Honorable, we want the committee to also be active like the others. So using the powers given to us within the rules, that's why we are redesignating. Thank you.
There is a motion. Honorable members, pursuant to Rule 196, I put a question that the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of Committee of Government Assurance be designated as proposed by the chief opposition whip. Those in favor say on the contrary, nay. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members. Now, honorable members, Francis, we are still getting an answer. Honorable members. Honorable members. You want to vote? You want to vote? The nays have it. You know, we've set a precedence. We removed the Honorable Jara Mapendusi. He was not removed. I was removed from Kosase in the 10th Parliament. The Speaker said no. Honorable members, we have, just a minute. Honorable members, we have, as a house, we are giving you 1 month. We are giving you 1 month of recess. Honorable members, we are concerned that we want our members to come back to Parliament. But we are going to make sure, honorable members, we are concerned that we want our members to come back to Parliament. And because we want our members to come back, you're going for recess, you'll return on 23rd July. And honorable members, the business committee that we had organized for tomorrow will not be sitting. Will not be sitting because we have failed to get business yet. We don't have business yet. I now adjourn the house to 23rd July.
Give me my pen. I hope you will take good care of this.
My beans are now more tasty for the tastiest beans.
Time now for a special Euros edition of Back Pages tonight, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Delighted to say that joining us tonight are the Athletics football correspondent David Ornstein and Martin Ziegler, chief sports reporter for The Times. Welcome along to you both. Thanks very much for joining us straight after the big match. And we're going to get straight to this story from The Telegraph. Hey Jude, Bellingham wins it. We showed it to you just a few moments ago. Picture of his celebration alongside Kieran Trippier, Declan Rice in the background. Midfielder's crashing header gets England's tournament up and running. Martin, I'll come to you first on this one. Was that it? Was Jude Bellingham the difference between the two sides in a very tight match?
He was certainly the best player on the pitch, and I think by a fairly long way. I mean, I was a bit concerned he was going to be exhausted after his very long season playing in the Champions League final, when he did look a bit leggy then, but he's clearly had a couple of weeks off and he was absolutely revitalised. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, in every facet really. Physically really strong, very, very good on the ball, visionary, and that brilliant header. Yeah,
David, what was your take on Bellingham's performance? He seemed to be everywhere on the pitch last night or this night.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. He's cut from a different cloth, Jude Bellingham. We know he's a generational talent. We know he's already on the path towards greatness, winning Champions League just recently, playing for the mighty Real Madrid. And the way he wanted the ball and was eager to be the main man, it sort of was reminiscent of a young Wayne Rooney bursting onto the scene many years ago, and the hunger with which he wanted to drive the team forward and lead by example in attack with the goal, in midfield, in defence, the swagger he had, the way he was prepared to take it to the opposition, serenaded by the crowd. I've said it before on this programme, he's such an old head on young shoulders. And you just want to see him get better and better as the tournament goes on. Martin points out, obviously, a bit of fatigue coming into this tournament. He's also been carrying a shoulder injury for quite a long time. He was on the end of a couple of rough challenges as well tonight. But his body is built so robustly by the looks of it that he's the sort of player that England are going to build their team around for many years to come. He's part of the leadership group already. Gareth Southgate wanted him to inspire some of the younger players by being just 20 years old and already in that select group, and yeah, it bodes really well. He was the standout performer in what was an interesting night. It was a very positive result, but there's a lot that we can pick through.
Before we get onto the overall performance, Martin, there's lots of places you can play Jude Bellingham, really. I mean, you could play him as a number 8, couldn't you? There are lots of number 10 options, but did tonight vindicate the decision to play him as a number 10?
Yeah, I think so. I think that is his best place for him. It is for Real Madrid, and I just think, you know, when you've got that sort of talent, you have to play him in his best role. There may be other players who, for example, Phil Foden didn't look too comfortable out on the left, and he likes playing in that position as well. And you know, do you accommodate him by moving Bellingham? I think no, and I think that showed tonight that you don't. You have to play him there.
All right, let's have a look at the Eye as well. Their headline is "Shaky start. So a slightly different take to the Telegraph. And David, how are we to look at this performance? Because it was a tale of two halves, wasn't it, really? The first half, England were pretty dominant. They looked very dangerous down the right. And then the second half, all of a sudden, Serbia had a lot more of the ball, and it was all hands on deck in terms of defending. So overall, in the round, how are we to look at this opening performance?
Well, the first half, especially for the most part of the first half, it got a little bit edgy towards half time, but the majority of it was very commanding, authoritative. I thought England looked great physically, in fine fettle, and tactically they'd been set up well. Positionally, it looked like a team that knows they're one of the favourites for this tournament. They've been together a long time, despite having some younger players and some newer faces in the group, and they took it to Serbia quite well. I did sort of gain a feeling when, after that excellent opening goal from Jude Bellingham, the way England took the pace out of it a little bit and started looking like they weren't quite going for the kill in a way that many of us want to see, that this could come back to haunt them later, because at this level you really need to see off opponents like that. And that's where you flip into the second half, and there are reasons to be concerned in terms of maybe the substitutions, in terms of the fact that England allowed Serbia to get back into it, and really there were moments that were very squeaky, and against better opposition you imagine England might have been punished. Now at the same time, you've got to say England before Gareth Southgate didn't used to do well in their opening matches of major tournaments. Under him they have, and they've continued that. And I remember Clive Woodward when England won the Rugby World Cup in 2003. Just get the results. It doesn't matter how they come. But of course, with English football, we want to see the style as well. We've got such good players that have the capabilities of doing so. And definitely on the substitutions, would have liked to see some more proactive steps rather than perhaps a bit more conservative and defensive. But they got through, and on the same day that the other teams in their group drew. And so England are now in a commanding position, and they'll need to step up their performance against Denmark.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at your paper, Martin. And the Times also focuses on Jude Bellingham. Bellingham in a class of his own. But I want to get your thoughts, on the overall performance as well. Do you think England defended better than they attacked today? A lot of questions over the defence, but Mark Guehi in particular had a very good game.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely superb, actually, because coming into this game, he perhaps had been somebody people didn't know much about, unless you were sort of followed Crystal Palace closely. But I thought he was absolutely excellent, and certainly just behind Bellingham in terms of the ratings for the match. I actually think England should have been a bit more clinical, perhaps. I know Harry Kane had one that hit the crossbar, but there were a couple of Kyle Walker. I think he would have been very disappointed didn't make more of his clear chance. There were a couple of others, so I think they could be more clinical in their finishing. I think, but actually, I thought they defended brilliantly. I think they had one shot on target, Serbia, and when you look at the actual match stats, I think England will be quite pleased with those. I think actually Southgate will be perhaps less happy with what happened in terms of finishing off the chances that they had. If you were any other team, Italy, Spain, you think this was a job well done. You wouldn't be too fussed about the fact that you conceded a bit of possession, a bit of territory to Serbia in the second half. You just think, we held our own, we did the job, and we got the result, and that's all that matters.
I mean, a lot of the papers are focusing on Bellingham, as you would imagine. He scored the only goal. The Express is no different as well. Let's have a look at their headline. So far, so Jude. So all of these headlines really just expressing the fact that, England did the job really through Bellingham tonight. But how about his midfield partner? Because at the start of the game, a lot of the focus was on Trent Alexander-Arnold playing in midfield. He got taken off midway through the second half. He was fairly influential in the first half. Can we look at that as a success or not?
I think that was going to be the talking point after this match, Matt. Whatever happened, did Trent Alexander-Arnold do well or not so well? because he was the only real selection dilemma. Was it going to be him or Conor Gallagher? And I think many people have been asking for Gareth Southgate to try Trent Alexander-Arnold in this position, which he's very new to. He's barely played there for club or country. And so, as Sam Wallace writes in The Telegraph, it's a position and a decision that comes with risk and also some reward too. And so there were some moments that he will learn from in terms of possession and positionally, but also he's got special qualities that many of us want to see from England in terms of his vision, his distribution. And for the moments that were maybe not so good tonight, he made up for them really well. Some interceptions, some starting of the counter-attacks. And you'd like to think that he would grow into this tournament. And as Sam finishes his piece with, he should be retained for Thursday as well. And you know, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is the sort of player that the spark, the ability to do something that would light up a major tournament and is the sort of thing that England are maybe looking for. So, yeah, I thought he, on the whole, did pretty well for this first performance against very tough opposition. We shouldn't underestimate Serbia. They beat Sweden 3-0 in their last warm-up match. And he forms a good partnership with Declan Rice. And obviously, you've got Jude Bellingham in there as well. You've got the option of Conor Gallagher. He came on, Kobbie Mainoo too, but maybe that's a bit defensive. And we've got so many players in the England squad who could bring some excitement to this team in this tournament. So I think Trent Alexander on the whole did pretty well, to be fair.
Yeah, so that is on your screen there. That is Sam Wallace's article inside The Telegraph. Alexander-Arnold was a big risk, but it was the right call. Martin, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I generally do. I mean, there are a couple of things he gave the ball away, which Mitrovic nearly scored from. Put it wide. I think that was just a little bit of an error there. But I think going forward, generally, he was a very positive force, and he did make some interceptions as well. So, you know, he is a fullback naturally for Liverpool. So he does have that defensive side to his game too, as well as this, his amazing passing ability, which we saw some of as well. I actually think he will get better and better as the tournament goes on, and I very much think he should be kept in that position.
Yeah, well, OK, that's interesting. David, I'll come to you then, because there is a train of thought, isn't there, that when we come up against more offensive sides, maybe Conor Gallagher should play in midfield alongside Declan Rice and not Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's better used to sides that sit deep. Do you go along with that train of thought?
Maybe, but I'm not sure England even have the most natural defensive midfielder in their squad. Declan Rice is not sort of the type of player that plays there all the time for Arsenal. He's pushed further forward and looked quite natural in the 8. You've got Jude Bellingham, as you've talked about, sort of the 8 and even the 10, as Martin said, he took so well to, even though he can get back defensively. And Conor Gallagher is not a defender. I mean, he's an industrious player that gets around the park and he tries to create. And as we've seen for Chelsea, has a bit of a penchant for scoring goals too. So you could say Kobbie Mainoo, but and it was great that he got on tonight. And I think that's a good step from Southgate to get some minutes under his belt in a remarkable rise for Manchester United and England. But he's still very young. And this is a new stage for him. And so as the tournament gets more serious, I'm not sure that he would be your sort of starting option. So there will be a lot of focus on Conor Gallagher, but there was a bit of a sense that when those players came on, maybe England retreated into their shell and were a bit too compact and invited Serbia on. The likes of Dusan Tadic were on by that point and trying to do things slightly differently. So I don't know, it's the proactive steps, the sort of players who can retain the ball, who can get on England on the front foot and take the game to the opposition that we see from many of these other nations that work out so well. And so that's where Trent Alexander-Arnold maybe holds some favour in that he's a forward-thinking player, and we all seem to agree that England's best chance at this tournament is to rely on their forward players to maybe mitigate some of the weakness through injury and lack of availability on the defensive side. So no, I think he should retain his place and most likely will.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, for the time being. Very positive start for England at the Euros. They've won their first game against Serbia. Stay with us. Lots more to come. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight. And welcome back to Martin Ziegler, Chief Sports Reporter for The Times, and the Athletics football correspondent, David Ornstein. Right, we are now going to talk about Scotland, gentlemen, which is quite handy because I know, Martin, you were at the game the other day, the 5-1 humbling by Germany. And Steve Clarke has actually taken responsibility in some ways for the defeat and the manner of the defeat, hasn't he? If we have a look at this here, Clarke, I clouded the players' minds for Germany thrashing. What do you make of the way that Steve Clarke has tried to deflect the attention away from his side's performance in some ways?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was very, not surprisingly, very sort of grumpy after the match. And I pointed out in the post-match press conference, Scotland didn't have a single shot at all on goal, despite the fact they managed to score or have a goal in their favour via an own goal. And he was very put out. He seemed quite put out by that, but he wasn't blaming the players. He said we know we're better than this, and I'm not surprised he's sort of taken it on the chin himself to try and take some of the pressure off them. And I think he's saying that he basically overcomplicated things, gave them too much information about what he wanted them to do, and instead of keeping it simple, and he's going to change things for the next match. And I think that's probably good managerial tactics, to be honest.
Yeah, Sam Dean with that in the Telegraph in terms of clouding the players' minds. He's got a big job on his hands, though, hasn't he, David, to turn that around. That was about as poor a performance as he could have hoped for in their first game.
Yeah, it was a real lowlight of the tournament so far, unfortunately, for Scotland. And it doesn't get any easier because they've got, well, it should get a little easier, but not much, because it's Switzerland who are on form. And then even Hungary, and we've seen their quality, and Dominic Szoboszlai in there, if he can up his level a little bit too. It's not going to be easy for Scotland to qualify now. Of course, second place and maybe some third places too gives them hope. But that was a bruising first defeat, and losing Ryan Porteous to the red card. Injuries coming into the tournament. There was even concern on Andy Robertson on the eve of the tournament. And it's not been plain sailing at all so far. Look, he's done a magnificent job, Steve Clarke, in getting Scotland to this point, and they're going to go down fighting whatever happens, and their fans will be right behind them. Quite incredible, the support that they give Scotland. But it was a bitterly disappointing start, and you start to look around the team for where they can pick up against a team of Switzerland's quality, led by Granit Xhaka, and it's going to be really tough. So yeah, it's not looking the best for them.
Well, Sam Dean was also actually in Stuttgart for the other game in Group C, England's group, Slovenia against Denmark. He's written about that too. Janza spoils Eriksson movie script is the headline he goes with. And that's kind of spot on, really, isn't it, Martin? Because we were heading for a fantastic story had Christian Eriksen scored the winner there for Denmark. Yeah,
because, of course, it was in the Euros when he collapsed on the pitch and with his had a heart attack. So for him to have come back and scored this really excellent goal, it was looking like a fairy tale. But Slovenia weren't gonna have it end that way, and actually they look very strong. Got a couple of really powerful strikers up front, and Eriksson, I think he accepted that Slovenia did enough to deserve that draw, and it's going to be wide open now. As David said, if you finish in third place, you can still qualify. So even though Serbia lost to England, it's by no means the end of their story, and they can be very, very hopeful that they can pull one off, because actually a draw would have been the best result for them, playing against both of those teams left to come.
David, it seems as though the so-called bigger sides have all started out pretty well, or started with wins in this tournament. Netherlands managed to get a late win against Poland earlier, 2-1, with Wout Weghorst getting the winner, formerly of Manchester United. He's still actually on Burnley's books, isn't he, Wout Weghorst? But what did you make of the Dutch?
Yeah, the Dutch, they've been unpredictable at major tournaments in recent years, but we know they've got quality there. And actually, Weghorst is becoming a bit of a major tournament hero for the Dutch. I was out in Qatar, I interviewed him after some of his heroics there, and he's sort of being a bit of a standard bearer for them. They're going to need to up their quality, and they've got it within their ranks. And as England have showed tonight, and Martin pointed out, you just got to get the wins now. Italy came from a goal down the holders. That would have been a big upset if they hadn't done so. It was only really, obviously, Germany and Spain who were commanding in their victories. But it puts the bigger teams in good shape. But yeah, there are threats. I mean, a word for Benjamin Sesko of Slovenia today, a couple of shots that could have scored sort of goal of the tournament contenders in the opening few days. And so it's not going to be easy. You know, England have got them in their final group game. So that there are threats wherever you look. And that's why the big teams at this point, that you can't take right off the ball, and you just can't underestimate the importance of just getting those points on the board and getting through to the knockout stage, which is why I think we need to keep a bit of the England analysis in perspective, because they've done what they needed to do.
Right, I've just got a couple of minutes left, gents, but I want to go back to England, finish with England, and go back to the Telegraph as well, because Mike McGrath's player ratings make interesting viewing in the Telegraph. Everyone gets 7s, 8s or 9s for Bellingham. The two lowest scores, Martin, Harry Kane and Phil Foden, who both get a 6. Now, Foden, of course, playing on the left, and from that evidence, it didn't really seem to suit him.
No, actually, I think that's slightly harsh. I think Kane actually did all right. I mean, it wasn't as though the ball was being played to him and he wasn't controlling it. I actually think he did quite well with what he had. Won a lot of free kicks. When he got the ball, he made use of it. He had that chance, his only chance, which very nearly scored. So actually, I think probably slightly harsh. I would have marked him a little bit higher. Foden, I might even have marked a little bit lower. I thought he was pretty disappointing. Didn't use the ball nearly as well as I thought he could. Maybe it's just not his position. I mean, for Manchester City, he likes playing coming in from the right, doesn't he? So maybe it's a struggle trying to get him to adapt to that new position. So maybe it's something that's going to get better through the tournament, but it didn't look particularly comfortable for him out there.
Only about 45 seconds or so left, David, but do you think Foden was the poorest performer for England today?
Yeah, he didn't do himself justice or reach the standards we know of him, and that maybe puts his place under scrutiny for the Denmark game, especially when Anthony Gordon is so well thought of by the England coaching staff, and he does hug that left touchline so well for Newcastle United. Jared Bowen came on and created more chances than anybody else for England tonight, and so I think there's a bit of a selection dilemma there, and Phil Foden will need to up his level if he's going to retain the place in the team and deliver what we know he can.
Great talking to both of you. Thank you very much. David Ornstein and Martin Ziegler. That was Back Pages tonight.
When heavy days meet heavy floors, she knows she needs to level up with a pod that keeps up. Get Always Extra Long Maxi Pad, giving your heavy floor 3 times better protection. You got the power, always. We are the generation of change, available in day and night.
just knowing that your family is in good hands, it puts you in a good space mentally. With the love I have for my family, knowing that my mom, my brother, my whole family is doing well financially gives me a peace of mind. That's why it's so important for me to be able to send money back home.
All right, joining us for today, we have the athletic writers Ollie Kay and Jack Pittbrook. Jack, let's start with you. England 1-0, beating Serbia. They got the job done 3-0. But I don't know, I felt underwhelmed. How did you feel?
Overall, I probably felt a little bit underwhelmed, given that England had started so well. In that first half an hour, you got a sense that this was an England team playing with more sort of confidence and more advanced attacking football than we had seen. And then I think over time it kind of got more and more, it became more and more familiar, basically. You know, it became more and more like England England games that we've seen in the past, particularly in group stages. I don't think overall it was that different from the 1-0 win at the start of the last Euros. Against Croatia, where I don't think they played as particularly well. The 2-1 win against Tunisia at the start of the 2018 World Cup. Obviously, everybody left that game on a huge high because of the last-minute winner, but England were pretty poor for a lot of that game. So I don't think they played especially well, but I don't think they played much worse overall than we've seen them do in the past in these types of games.
Well, Ollie, Jack mentioned something, which reminded me yesterday. I actually sent a screen grab of the opening stages of the Euros around the WhatsApp group yesterday. England, Croatia, first match of the last Euros, 1-0, almost identical to this in many respects. From the piece you wrote, this feels like, I guess, something that's quite familiar and certain issues that England seem to show in these tournaments as well.
Yeah, I think it has definitely been a common performance that for England over the years, and not just the Southgate years. I mean, I think back to the last World Cup here in Germany, 2006, there was an opening performance against Paraguay where England scored very early on and then were just left clinging on terribly, really desperate, turgid football. And they certainly weren't, I mean, people can talk about England not being able to keep the ball last night, but they kept the ball a lot better in the second half than they did in some of those performances. I think back to Italy in 2012 and the ones that Russia in 2016 under Roy Hodgson, even going much further back, sort of Sven-Göran Eriksson years, and the old phrase of first half good, second half not so good. We've just seen that England performance so many times. And it does feel like, I mean, it's particularly, I think, with the opening game of a tournament, or the opening few games of the tournament, it feels like England nearly always go into it looking a bit flat. I think the difference last night was that they started, I thought the first half hour was without going overboard, I thought it was really, really decent. And then it just tailed off completely. And they were, look, I wouldn't overstate it. They weren't holding on for dear life, but they were holding on unconvincingly and grateful for the final whistle when it came. So, yeah.
I guess, Ollie, one of the questions that I had watching at home was, to what extent do you think the chances and possession that Serbia had in the second half, would that have been outside of what Southgate had planned for the game? Like, did you feel like England were under real threat, or was it just kind of hopeful crosses and shots from distance?
Personally, I think it was, I think England would have wanted to have them more at arm's length than they did. Certainly for that sort of period from, I don't know, I guess 40 minutes to 70 minutes. That to me is when it felt like Serbia were particularly dangerous. Or for maybe 40 to 80 minutes. I don't know. I didn't feel going into the final 10 minutes that I do actually feel like England were defending defending their own box pretty well, and it wasn't looking like Serbia would have the magic ingredient to unlock that. But I guess you do always expect, if you're only leading by one goal, you do expect the opposition to come back into it at some point. But I felt it shouldn't have been to that extent. And I'm not dismissive of Serbia because they've got some really good players. I was surprised by how dominant England appeared to be in that first half hour. But it's I don't think Southgate would look at that second half and think, that was all fine. We had all of that under control. I thought control was severely lacking that second half.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, in fairness, I mean, as we've just mentioned, that the performance probably wasn't particularly fireworks, but, Jude Bellingham at the end of the match said something, and I thought it was really interesting. He was like, England need to set their own standards and not sort of follow the theme of the tournament. We've already seen Germany start so explosively and Spain playing so well already. At the end of the day, England got the 3 points. They only need another win and they'll be, through to the next round of this tournament. Just focus on what you're good at. It doesn't matter if it's absolutely illuminating at this period of the tournament.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not too down on yesterday's performance, is that I think Southgate has absolutely earned the benefit of the doubt on performances in group stages. Like, Southgate has proven that he is very, very good at navigating his way through the group stage into the serious end of the tournament. And, England haven't always shone under Southgate in group stages before, but their record in knockout rounds is very good. They've got to a World Cup semi, a Euros final, a World Cup quarterfinal. So that's one reason why I'm not too worried. The other reason, which is connected to that, is we've all watched enough tournaments to know that the team that plays the best football in the first week doesn't automatically go on and win it. Like, how every single tournament, there's one or two teams which blows someone away in the group stages, and everyone says, "Oh, how are they not? Of course they're going to win," and then they never do. And it's always, teams with a lot more sticking power, whether that's, I don't know, France in 2018 or Portugal in 2016.
Argentina at the World Cup.
Or even Argentina in 2022, who I don't think were particularly convincing in the group stages. So, no.
I mean, even Greece that won it in 2004, exactly, do you remember
that? So we should not read too much into who plays the sexiest football in the group stages, I think.
Not many teams or fans like England necessarily, but there is this sort of allure to want to watch England, Ollie. This is a team that definitely attracts a lot of attention for any competition, mainly fundamentally because I think, of the brand that the Premier League exudes, the players there. And I guess if you look at the likes of Bellingham, Kane, Foden to a certain degree, we've got some global stars here. But there is still that kind of like, will they actually win something?
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys comparison I thought was interesting. I was thinking, I'm sure Dallas Cowboys have won the Super Bowl at least a few times in the last 60 odd years, and they have, but not for a long time. And there's probably that sort of sense of entitlement and sense of I don't know, or perceived arrogance with certain teams that you have. And look, I think that accusation and the sort of arrogance and entitlement could definitely have been applied to the England of perhaps the 2000s. You know, there was that sort of air of, you know, in terms of the media coverage, the sort of everything that went around the England team when they had all the, you know, superstars, Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Rooney, Owen, etc. I feel like this is quite a humble, hardworking, together. Let's, you know, I feel like the culture around this England team, and even, to be honest, people will laugh because nobody agrees with this. I think the media coverage of England over the last decade has become a lot more proportionate and a lot more sensible. I don't think it's, you know, people will always be able to point to one or two things that aren't proportionate, whether it's good or bad. But it's, I feel like that sort of air of perception of entitlement has gone a little from the thing around the England team. I still think I have absolutely no doubt that there are a lot of people who tune in to England and want them to lose. I think particularly our neighbours, and I absolutely totally understand that. But I don't know, when I speak to journalists from other countries, and, you know, Germany in particular, that I feel that they're all, unless they're just trying to say this in the hope of appeasing me or placating me, but they all seem to be real Anglophiles in terms of football and culture and maybe not food, but they like the England team and they want England to do well, and they enjoy seeing a decent England team rather than an England team sticking the tournament out, as has happened in the past. So I'm sure if you go on social media, you will see nothing but hatred for England from other countries, and probably after a second half last night, probably a lot of hatred towards England from a lot of the English fans as well. But it's I feel like that's perhaps more what Alexi Lalas thinks than the entire world.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, slightly contrary to what Ollie's saying about, you know, the press being a bit more just around England. You know, Stuart James put out this piece on The Athletic a couple of years ago now, and, you know, he's talking about England and arrogance. You know, is football really coming home? And he sort of talks about, you know, Luka Modric talking about, you know, certain pundits under writing Croatia when they played England in the World Cup, and then Croatia obviously went on to win that game. Is there a sense sometimes with the media that this team, because it's so equipped, because we are, or England is, the home of Premier League football, that there's sort of a rite of passage when it comes to tournaments for this team to do well?
I think the whole "it's coming home" thing is quite interesting, because I think it's clearly from here, I think we all know that "it's coming home" is not meant to be like an arrogant prediction that England are definitely going to win a tournament. But clearly it doesn't travel well, and lots of people hear that in foreign countries and think that this means that the English think that they're going to wipe the floor with everyone in Europe. I actually think one of the unusual things about this tournament is that normally going into tournaments, we have a big national debate about the true meaning of "it's coming home," which has been sadly missing from the pre-tournament discourse this time around, which makes me think that maybe we've all moved on a little bit, perhaps. But I also think it's worth mentioning that the image, and this kind of ties in with what Ollie was saying, the image that Southgate and these players put out to the media and to the wider world, and I certainly feel like this is picked up in other countries, is, I think, far more humble, and I think far more representative of what you might call the best face of English football than England teams of the past, which I don't think have really shown that at all. And I do think that I don't think this means that, I certainly wouldn't go as far as to say that England are now everyone's second team, because clearly that isn't the case. But I do think that there is quite a lot of admiration for Southgate as a person and for what he represents, which probably would not have been the case with England managers of the past.
Yeah, do you buy that, Ollie? Like, Gareth Southgate's really added something to this team, I guess a humbleness on a global scale, where, you know, we do have, or England do have, these superstars, but actually the way he's managed these players, you look at the situation with Bukayo Saka and, you know, Rashford in the last Euros, and actually kept them on side as a unified force, has allowed us I guess, the global press to look at this team and think, actually, yeah, they're a good bunch of lads, actually, and actually, so is that coach.
I do genuinely believe that. Yeah, and I know people aren't very happy with. Well, people are never very happy with Gareth Southgate, because despite the record, the tournament record under him being so much more positive than it had been since Alf Ramsey, basically. But yeah, I think even people who are pulling their hair out because he has, one player in midfield or one player on the left wing, or they're not happy with his team selections, or the way that England ease off in games, etc. I think even those people, his harshest critics, must surely recognise that there are things he has done in terms of the psyche of this England team and the culture around this England team, and that have improved it. It's not just a case of getting a few good players at once. It's, England have had very good players in the past, and have had world-class players in the past, and have never had this real sense of togetherness and unity and sort of sense of purpose that they've had the last few years. I think it's really admirable. I think when people, and when the media in other countries certainly see Southgate getting a lot of stick from the English, I think they think, God, have you guys got short memories? And I also think when you look at it the other way, and when England were struggling last night and performing poorly, I think there was some real condemnation of England's performance by foreign pundits and saying that this is not good enough. And I agree with that as well. It wasn't the performance in the second half wasn't good enough. It was good enough to win the game, but it wasn't good enough to sort of send out a serious statement in terms of England's intentions. I think people do recognise what Southgate has done and that this England team of the past few tournaments has been different in a good way to a lot of the England teams of the past.
Yeah, okay, well, let's get a taste from across Europe now. Here's Seb Stafford Bloor, who is covering Germany for The Athletic at the Euros.
Yeah, the German press haven't actually been that complimentary. Bild spent more time talking about the rendition of Sweet Caroline after the game, so that's probably not a good sign. Kicker, which is the biggest football magazine in the country, they focused really on Jude Bellingham, talked about his performance, really liked his influence, and talked also about the physicality of England, but not really the quality of the performance. Elf Freunde, who are like a sort of a 442 style magazine, really. They weren't very complimentary. They talked about, they included some quotes from Christoph Kramer, who's working on German television last night, about how angry England make him because of what he was implying, because of how they misuse their talent, and how, to quote him, they take the lead in games and they go into administrative mode. So not hugely impressed so far. And generally there's been a lot of coverage also of the experience that some of the fans had in the city. So not really about the football at all.
I mean, there's never been any sort of love lost between the Germans and English in general when it comes to football anyway. But I guess with Harry Kane now in the Bundesliga, there's got to be some sort of appetite for what he does in these Euros tournaments. And there's a potential of him even facing Germany at some point, Ollie, in the later stages.
Yeah, and is more likely of England to finish second in the group. I mean, I think that would be the likely outcome of England finish runners up. Last 16 game against Germany again, which would be fascinating. I think the Germans in particular can probably identify with this England team. They've had Bellingham there, they've got Kane there, they've had Jadon Sancho, who's not in the squad now, but I think there's a good sense of identifying with this generation of English players. But as I said earlier, I do think there is a sort of warmth towards English football from the German football community and from the media and fans. I don't, not necessarily all the time, and I'm sure they absolutely well, and I know that they find it hilarious that we still bang on about Euro 96 and 1990 World Cup as if England won them, right? You know, whereas in Germany they're just remembered as yet another German victory. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think I think people will look at this team and just think it's some world-class players, some very good players, a manager who's proved himself to be a good England manager over the last few tournaments, and a more serious, credible England team than certainly than the previous decade.
Yeah, Jack, there's a little word there on, you know, the worry that England don't know how to use the talent on the field properly, especially the young players, from that little excerpt there. Is that a fair comment? You know, the Germans known to churn out great young talent, harbour them in their league, and actually here are England again at the world stage, or at a European stage in particular, not quite clicking with this incredible, especially attacking squad anyway.
So yes and no. Like, I mean, I don't think Germany have got the best out of their players over the last 10 years. I mean, really, I think they have consistently underperformed really since they won the World Cup in 2014. In terms of England, I mean, I think Southgate has done much better than his predecessors in taking advantage of the players available to him. The one question mark I think is over Phil Foden, who, you know, FWA Footballer of the Year this year, has been unbelievably good for Manchester City. And yeah, I watched him last night on TV and I thought we've not really seen anything like the Manchester City Foden in an England shirt. I know he's scored a few goals in the last World Cup, but he just doesn't look, I don't know if it's to do with confidence or to do with the system or to do with his position in the team, but it's just not quite clicking for him. And I do wonder whether this will be a bigger issue as the tournament goes on, and whether there will eventually be calls to try something else. I mean, it kind of be bizarre not to play him, given how good he is, and yet it just doesn't quite seem to work.
Well, of course, Jude Bellingham is the main man in Spanish club football right now for Real Madrid. Has this been a factor to how this England team are viewed in Spain? Well, here's Dermot Corrigan with his take from Madrid.
It's really interesting. One this because people in Spain are generally pretty well disposed towards the England national team. They know all the players, they like a lot of the personalities, they see England as like a historic big team, and every time a tournament comes around they're mentioned as one of the favourites. Like, over the years there's been a lot of interest and goodwill towards England with, you know, Beckham, Owen, the golden generation, Lampard, Gerrard, Rooney, maybe alongside questions too about why they never came good in their potential and won something at international level. It'd be pretty similar now. Lots of people watch the Premier League, Champions League too. And then, of course, Bellingham made such a huge impression at Madrid this year. And a lot of Blancos fans will be cheering for him in the tournament this summer. There will be Madrid fans who would support their own players, you know, going back to even Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal, maybe even over the Spanish national team, just because of the way things work in Spain, especially at Madrid, that Real Madrid is the be-all and end-all for them. One thing I maybe add is that, and this could be maybe among more analysts and journalists, tactical experts than you know, your match-going fans or your typical guys watching the game on the TV, is that the feeling that England are never tactically the best side at the tournament or the best coached. Just following Twitter last night, Southgate was coming in for a good bit of criticism from, you know, people who I'd follow in Spanish language accounts. So there'd be a feeling that they do have a lot of good players, but that they never really come together as a team who are capable of winning the tournament. So maybe goodwill for England, but maybe Spanish pundits or experts would have a bit more respect maybe for Germany or France and see them as more difficult opponents in the latter stages of the tournament.
What can we say about Jude Bellingham? The star coming into this tournament. Also, he scored the goal yesterday, rescued England, some might say. Jack, do you think his arrogance backs up his consistency?
I don't think he's arrogant. I think he plays with a lot of swagger and personality. And, you know, we saw that yesterday when he sort of walked straight into Kostic deliberately, and he's always, he's always had this kind of amazing maturity on the pitch. Although I think if you talk to people in football, they always, like, managers always use that phrase "good arrogance," don't they? Like, and that's what you want from good players. You want them to be sort of having themselves a bit. I think that's all fine. I mean, I always think the amazing thing about Bellingham is when you listen to him talk after a game, is that he's like a kind of 34-year-old Michael Ballack, and yet he's only 20. And yet while I think it's kind of, I mean, we've seen that a lot this season. Certainly, like when he'll do post-match TV interviews after big Real Madrid Champions League games or whatever. We saw that again last night. Like his ability to break down and explain the game and articulate how he views it and how he wants it to be viewed, I think it is amazing. But I wrote something the other week about Bellingham and his time in the England 15, 16, 17s. I think he's always been like that. Like even when he was a 15-year-old at St George's Park, he would wow everyone else in the building with his ability to analyze a game and the way he could present in front of teammates. So I think that is a big part of his uniqueness. But I don't think I don't know whether it kind of counts as arrogance in my mind.
Yeah. He's also got a bit of a naughty streak, I got to say, Ollie. I especially remember he was at Birmingham City. He definitely got squared up to a few players. But I guess, as Jack would say, that's quite useful, especially a player that wants to dominate the field, that wants to show his presence, and actually doesn't want to be bumped off the ball. Is this something you feel like could be rubbing off on the England players as well, or they needs to rub off on some of the England players? Because we talk about Phil Foden yesterday. Cesc Fabregas, he's good, but he also needs to ask for it. He needs to want it in a way that Jude Bellingham wants it. Do you think that kind of energy, that kind of confidence, that arrogance, that fearlessness is rubbing off or can rub off on this England squad?
I think it can. I think it possibly needs to, in terms of one of those sort of few remaining ingredients that England need. You could look at the England team of the last few years and say that they're really good. They do a lot of things very well, but you could also say, are they ruthless enough? Are they nasty enough? Do they, it's that side of things that I think that I look back to the quarterfinal against France in Qatar in 2022, and I felt like that wasn't a question of control. I felt that was almost like a question of personality, mentality, ruthlessness, character, rather than tactics, technique, etc. I genuinely think that was the difference in France had these, someone like Giroud and Mbappe and Griezmann all had really good games. The midfielders had good games, but they really sort of dug it out through difficult periods in that game. I don't think England have excelled at that. And I think in Bellingham they've got somebody who I just thought, looking at him last night, I mean, it was like he was refusing to say no for an answer. It was a sort of, that sort of phrase of people or players grabbing the game by the scruff of its neck. And I thought for the first hour, he was absolutely doing that. He was just popping up everywhere, doing everything, and doing it really, really well, linking the extra man in midfield, the extra man in attack. So yeah, it's strange when you're looking at players like sort of Harry Kane and Kieran Trippier and John Stones, older players in the team. Some of them have, John Stones has won loads of trophies in his time and with Manchester City, but he will probably be thinking, wow, I'm glad we've got this 20-year-old who's got this personality on the pitch. Declan Rice has got something of that personality as well in a maybe a more understated way. So yeah, I think when we talk about England easing off in games, I think